The Raptors fall to the Houston Rockets 135-106. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, and Jevohn Shepherd. Jonesy, I'll start with you. Pirtle back tonight, as was Quickly, but yet the Raptors still struggled with keeping the Rockets out of the paint. 80-some-odd points in the paint for Houston. How could the rest of the team have helped protect that area of the basketball court?
Well, I think it started with straight line drives, Randy. Raptors had issues all night. You look at a guy like Jalen Green and how aggressive he was. You look at Şengün getting the ball in the paint and wheeling into the paint and backing his way into the paint. Some of those were on fast break opportunities where the Raptors got cross-matched and couldn't stop the ball at the point of attack in transition. So, Pirtle, you have to expect that Pirtle and Quickly coming back after being off are going to come up a little short. Pirtle fouled out. I thought Quickly played well considering he'd been off that long. Now, mind you, I don't think he got all of what he could have got from Houston, but at the same time, on a positive note, it was good for him to get back in and see his off going. And listen, this has been an issue for the Raptors the last little while. Containing the ball at the point of attack, and not allowing them, themselves to get broken down. So, paint touches are the essence of anybody's offense. That's where it starts. I think Houston did a good job of that tonight.
Yeah, Jevohn, what did you think of the Raptors' energy level? They hadn't played since Tuesday, had a couple of days off.
Energy level. There wasn't much energy tonight, and you mentioned a couple of days off. You think. You're also playing against, a former teammate. And, I looked at Houston's roster and you look at the age in some of those guys, you see 19, 20, 21, and you knew it was going to be an up and down game with those type of guys. So I thought the Raptors should have came out with a bit more energy, a bit more force. Scottie had it, but he was essentially the only one. Quickly got it going late. But, to Jonesy's point, it was really on the defensive end. You had a Houston team that shot about 60% for the course of this game. Hopping around that mark, and the Raptors just really didn't stop the basketball, right? And you've got to do that above the break. Houston wasn't running any significant offense or much screens, but it was just get the ball over half and their guards just attack the rim, or open court. The guards were just extremely aggressive. And I thought, the Raptors didn't have the energy, but what they did look was a little tentative and a little scared. I also thought this was a game for a guy like Grady Dick. If you look over at the roster of this Houston team, these are guys that you should be familiar with, right? Playing them on the circuit, and because most of these guys are one-year guys, so you're not playing them in college, familiar with them on the AAU circuit. You should have came out and just really just played, had fun, hooped, shot the basketball, played through mistakes, just air it out. But you really didn't see that from many of the Raptors tonight.
Sherm, what were the issues that the Raptors were having offensively?
Well, I think when you're getting beaten down defensively, it kind of rattles you on the offensive end, and every shot that you miss becomes that much more detrimental. And, your offense just isn't running as smoothly as you'd like it to move. And, after the game, Darko talked a bit about the fact that, you're not moving the basketball. I think they had 19 assists, and that's not a typical Raptor game. Even in a loss, they usually have higher assists. So the question is, how much did their defensive effort impact their offensive effort? And what Toronto has to really answer moving forward from a defensive perspective is Houston came into this game understanding that Toronto, during Jakob Poeltl's absence, was giving up about 61 points per game in the paint. So they came in with one intention: we're just going to attack. And if that's the scouting report across the league, that they're just going to attack and make sure they put pressure on your paint, either you make a stand, or you have nights like this where teams score 84 points in your paint. So they've got to really respond to this differently and make sure that they understand that they can't have this as their image, as their kind of their title. When you play the Raptors, you just attack their paint, you get what they want, because they're facing OKC next. And OKC will put pressure on your paint. So they've got to figure some things out quickly.
Jonesy, from a positive aspect, Scottie had a good game offensively. Do you think he looked a little bit more determined after not making the All-Star game?
I don't know. I didn't think he was great in you think back to the start of the road trip. He had a couple games where he'd come on in the fourth quarter. I thought this was a bit more of a consistent effort. Hey, if you want to use that as motivation, that's great. But yeah, we talked about it before in our radio pregame, Jevohn and I. I mean, you look at his numbers compared to a guy like Paolo Banchero. Scottie's numbers are better in every category except points per game, where Banchero's averaging 23 a game and Scottie's at 20. But the difference is winning. And all-stars and coaches value winning. If you're contributing to a winning team, that's going to put you in better stead. So, yeah, Scottie can use that as motivation, but his accolades and all the positive stuff is going to start to come when he's part of a winner or he's leading a winner. So if that's a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, yeah, good for him. I just like to see that effort consistently. They've got 3 more games on this road trip. As Sherman and Jevohn have both said, it's OKC next. You've got a back-to-back in there with the New Orleans team who is scraping and fighting in the West too. And they're looking at you as a lower level, a lower tier team in the East as, well, that's one we need to get. So that effort from Scottie has to carry over. When you're going to become a leader, you got to do it every night. You can't just have selected nights. And especially in a situation like this where you're the cornerstone and there are other guys coming with you, somebody has to set the tone every night. And hopefully for the Raptors going forward, that's going to be Scottie. Even tonight, you're right. There wasn't a lot of positives, but he showed well. He played well. He had a good game. And maybe that'll be fuel for the fire going forward.
Jevohn, let's dive into that a little bit more. He's averaging 28 and almost 6 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.5 blocks. Only 3 other players are putting up those kind of numbers in those categories, and that's Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic. Do you think Barnes being left off the All-Star team is a snub?
Well, to Jonesy's point as well, I think a big part of that is winning and where the Raptors are, right? For Scottie, the numbers are going to be great. The numbers are great, and I think he's going to continue to excel. He reminds me of a young Giannis. But I think where he has to be consistent and where he's going to gain so much more attention, not just here in Toronto, not just here in Canada, but just across the globe, is just impacting a game for 48 minutes and just having a presence, right? You can always have numbers, but, can that translate to wins, right? Can you knock off some of the better teams in the league right now? And I think that's where, this should motivate him, being a quote unquote snub. And can you argue, a guy like Paolo Banchero, can they be interchanged on the All-Star, for the East? Absolutely. But this, more important than anything, should be used as motivation for Scottie. And I think for all of us as well, it's just understanding a lot of this is about wins as well, right? And you also want to be in a position where Scottie still doesn't have everything handed to him, and he continues to grow, continues to develop, and just has that fire within him. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing for him right now.
Sure, it wasn't really about wins for the Lakers. They still got 2 guys in there with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and then Sacramento doesn't get anybody. Like, is Scottie a snub? And what are your thoughts on Sabonis and Fox not getting in?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about a snub and you quoted the numbers and who Scottie's numbers relate to, well, the people that they relate to are on winning teams. They're on very good teams that have winning records. So I'm with Jonesy and I'm with Jevohn on this. You've got to win. I mean, if you're going to have numbers that are comparable, then what's going to be the deciding factor? It's got to be the wins. And right now, Scottie's not in position due to his team not having the win totals to really be in that conversation. It's unfortunate, but individually, there's no question. His skill set, his numbers, if we're just taking him individually, absolutely. But now when you talk about Sabonis or a Fox, that's a winning team. That's a team that's a team that's in the playoff hunt for a top seed in the Western Conference. And their numbers are legit winning numbers. So I think both of those guys have a great argument for being snubbed, especially De'Aaron Fox. And Mike Brown made it clear how he felt about it. But there's no question those 2 guys should feel like they got snubbed. However, everybody on that team deserves to be there as it is.
Yeah, Jonesy.
Here's the thing. I would say, Randall.
Sabonis leads the league in rebounds, and he's averaging 8 assists and 20 points.
That's a snub. That's a straight out snub because it's not just about the year, as we see with a guy like Anthony Davis or LeBron James. maybe LeBron's a bad comparison because he's a face of the league and he was voted a starter, some of that by popularity. But it's about, to me, it's also about the pedigree and the consistency. Sabonis just didn't start becoming a rebounder. He's been a solid player for a few years now. He's already been an all-star. So I would take that as a snub. And the same with De'Aaron Fox. I mean, these guys are, to Sherm's point, they're putting up good numbers. They're on winning teams. The argument is their teams are doing better than the Lakers, who are hanging out in the play-in category. Listen, LeBron's in because he's a starter. He's the face of the league. He is in because of what is partly the popularity contest of NBA voting and fan voting. Anthony Davis, look, if he were to be left off, he might call it a snub. But I'd also point to the fact that they are in the play-in category. They're not, as high up as a team like Sacramento is. And there's some other players around there too you can look at.
What Jonesy's not telling you guys is he voted in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. That was Jonesy's vote. That's the losing vote.
Hey, man. No, I'm for winning, man. I'm for winning. Hey, man, you know how it is. Take the bowl. We pass it around.
Case.
If everybody gets something
we're not
to
buying
eat,
it.
If everybody gets something to eat and we're winning, I'm good. I'm not good with one guy eating all the food and the rest of us being hungry. That's not a winning formula.
We're not buying it.
Sure, last one. After learning of his first All-Star selection, Jalen Brunson went out and scored 40 in a come-from-behind win over the Pacers. He was visibly moved by the MSG crowd chanting MVP during his post-game interview. Just a really beautiful moment for him. When you think about his journey, what do you think is the main lesson for all the young players out there?
I just think it's about continuing to believe in yourself. I mean, Dallas felt the need to move him on. They didn't want to pay him the money, and we've seen Dallas do that before with a two-time MVP and Steve Nash. They just felt like maybe it wasn't a good fit. Maybe they didn't think he was worth the money that he was going to acquire on the open market. So whatever the reason is, Jalen Brunson just kept his head down and continued to work. And look at where it's landed him. It's landed him in a great situation. He's becoming a great player in this league. He's really turning around the fortunes of a franchise like the New York Knicks, which is a big thing to do in the NBA. And he is a leader. He is the leader of that team. So it's great to see. It's great for New York Knicks fans, although you know how New York Knicks fans can be when the Knicks are winning. But I'm happy for the young man. He's doing a great job and absolutely love his game. He's got a little bit of that old school in him that hits you with the shoulder, lean into you, get some space, fade away, push shots, floaters. He's got all that in his game. He's really fun to watch.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, guys. Next game for the Raptors Sunday against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tip-off goes at 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, Raptors Tonight will go live on YouTube shortly after the game. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.